This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Udemy, the largest marketplace for online learning. Whether you're looking to learn something new or just sharpen your skills, Udemy has over 65,000 courses starting at just $11.99. Students around the world choose Udemy to discover new passions, expand their skills, and even change careers. Visit ude.my/untitled or download the Udemy app to learn anytime, anywhere. Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Norm.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Kishore.
We got a special guest this week.
Hello,
It's
Kishore.
Kishore Hari.
Hello.
Contributor of Tested, co-host of our other podcast, This is Only a Test. And also, you have your own podcast, too, Inquiring Minds with Andre.
I do. I talk about science all the time. I don't understand this format where you guys only talk for about 30 minutes. I'm used to
Sometimes
4 hours or
sometimes
so.
25.
I was thinking as I passed you guys recording your podcast the other day and made the joke for the millionth time. You guys about to record that 4-hour podcast, and I thought, you got to get rid of these jokes you say all the time. That's what I said to myself.
You just got to get it out of your system.
It's all dad
It's like when you
jokes.
start working with someone new, like you work at a company for X number of years, and you work with someone new, and you're like, oh, I can use all my jokes again. I got a new audience.
No.
You know, we were telling I was telling stories on the Mythbusters Junior set, and one of the young Mythbusters said, "Boy, you certainly have a lot of stories, Mr. Adam." And I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm not sure how to take that.
Are they calling you sir as well?
No, Mr. Adam.
Who has called you? Has anyone ever called you Mr. Adam before?
Mr. Adam? Yeah, a couple of people have called me
That's
Mr. Adam.
interesting. I like it. It's a little different.
These young Mythbusters are so inspiring. Can I just stop and just we're in week 4. We're shooting away. It is so much fun. These young Mythbusters are so inspiring and so delightful to spend time around.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
I'm sure they're characters, too.
They do know significantly. One of them reminds me a lot of Jamie, but only because
The mustache?
no, because he's very recalcitrant and does not want to do the thing you expect to be done, and that is a key personality trait of Jamie's. If you give Jamie a range of parameters, he's always going to go, well, what's the upside down and backwards version of this? What is the way no one's looking at this? How could I do this in a way that has never been tried before? Even just to say a joke. Yeah. So this young man reminds me very much of that.
And that's not something necessarily that he did for camera. It was the behind the scenes operating procedure that made what he did.
It's one of the algorithms he runs that makes him such a great engineer.
Right.
I
Also
wonder
contrarian.
I wonder how you grow up with that mindset.
On
what
an Indiana farm orchard.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Hey, you guys did a showing of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? A couple weeks ago.
How much fun was that?
So much fun because it holds up in a way that you don't see many movies that are almost 40 years old hold up in that way.
Not at all. And Steven Soderbergh took Raiders a couple years ago, stripped all the color out and removed the sound and played it as a silent film as a demonstration of how well you can tell exactly what's going on through the whole film without ever hearing a line of dialogue. And he points out that is a testament to Spielberg's beyond genius framing.
For me, it was also remembering how films used to be lighthearted and filled with just joy. Raiders for a movie with Nazis throughout the movie is a pretty joyous film.
It's a pretty joyous film. I still can't get over how did he get to the secret Nazi base? He rode the periscope across hundreds of miles of ocean.
It was like the Muppets, where he traveled by map. Right?
I will tell you one secret of watching Raiders. When Adam heckles you when you're on stage while you're trying to talk about Raiders, it is a special moment.
I think he probably knows the film a little better than
Yeah, that came true.
It is. So I remember seeing Raiders when it came out, 81, right? Same year as Octopussy. And that was the summer. So we were up at the summer. We have a summer house in Cape Cod, and I was there with my cousins. And we had been seeing. Look up a list of the movies that came out in 1981. It will blow your freaking mind. Actually, you know what? Sorry, this is worth doing. And maybe if you have to speed up
no, that's
this
okay.
part.
Adam's gonna look. While he mentions that, and the reason I brought it up is because when we talked about it last, Will was here, and he was saying that every time you watch Raiders, you see something new because there's something new to discover. And I wasn't at that screening, so I hadn't seen it for a while. But I went to my copy of it last night and revisited because there was a Twitter thread revealing some things that I did not know were goofs and gaffes and things.
I think I saw this thread. It's mind-blowing.
It's one of those things, once you see it, you can't see. But I'm not going to reveal it until Adam list your movies from 1981-ish.
This is why it was a great thing to be a 14-year-old boy in 1981. We had Raiders of the Lost Ark, Stripes, Escape from New York, Evil Dead, American Werewolf in London, Halloween 2, Cannonball Run, Road Warrior, Excalibur, Body Heat, Das Boot, Victory, Postman's Always Rings Twice, Ragtime, Endless Love, Heavy Metal, Friday the 13th Part 2, Clash of the Titans, Time Bandits, Dragon Slayer, History of the World Part 1, For Your Eyes Only. That was the Bond movie that came out that year. Let's see, Scanners.
Wow.
Right? Blowout, The Howling, Thief, Chariots of Fire, Quest for Fire, a great movie that no one talks about anymore. Let's see, Arthur, Gallipoli.
Arthur, wow.
Yeah. The Beyond, what a messed up movie that is. Dinner with Andre, the only movie that Roger Ebert ever said was a genreless film. That's all 1981.
Even the first 6 of those, you could say, are like seminal films in pop culture history. And like if you were the culmination of the films you watched and you made, like you could replicate you just by inserting those films into the pot that makes a person up.
So I remember seeing Raiders, and the credits are rolling in Raiders, and I'm there 14. I'm just like, my life is different now. This movie has happened to me. And my cousin turned to me and he went, well, For Your Eyes Only is still the best movie this summer. And at 14, I remember saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. We just went through something really important, and you're denying its importance.
Yeah.
I think you won out.
I think
You go back, told you so.
it was delightful. Also, I tell you, I had this thought watching. I haven't seen Raiders in a theater in, I think, since then. I think it's all been VHS. And
I had never seen Raiders in a theater.
so I kept on thinking, wow, we're already at this part? That was the thing I kept on happening in my, we're already at this
It
part.
moves.
Yeah,
it really moves.
As well as I
Yeah.
know that movie, I'm always surprised how quickly they reach the well of souls.
So let's see if Adam actually knows this fact.
Oh my god.
about
Okay, wait,
Raiders.
hold on. So we're going to set it up.
Okay.
There are 3 things I saw on the internet last night that were, I think Ryan Johnson had retweeted one of them. And they were things I had no idea. Like 2 of them are gaffes and one of them is a revelation. We'll start with the gaffes.
Okay.
Like, cause, and for people listening to the podcast, these are things that once you see or hear, next time you watch the movie, you will not be able to not see them.
You won't be like the rainbow stripes of a DLP projector. Once
Kind
you know
of.
it's
Once
there.
then you move your eye, you can't move your eyes. You dart your eyes left and right, and you are seeing
The sound of
Matrix.
glass shattering in your head will happen
Yeah.
when you hear these.
The first one, it's simple, a stunt thing, right? Like there's one scene where I think it's in Raiders.
Okay.
Indy's on the front of the car, and he's like dangling the hood of the car, and you can very clearly see he's sitting on a chair.
Oh,
That's a simple stunt thing. Of course they had to do that.
right.
In the film, it goes by pretty quick.
Yep.
You wouldn't notice it.
Yep.
Okay.
Another scene is when they're chasing Marion in the marketplace, and the end of the scene, after the truck flips over, and you can see like the pole at the bottom of the truck flip it over. That's a common thing. Arnold, the villain, Todd,
Yeah.
he's in the car, but not really. What you see is it's a stand-in, and the stand-in is just his hat and a coat facing away from you.
Right.
And it literally looks like a shrunken person on the front seat of the car, just the hat and the coat. But
This one really broke me.
Really?
It's
I've
like,
never seen
it's the
this.
scene where like Belloc
yeah,
stands
yeah.
up and is like flustered that they got away. And you look down and it's like, it's clearly not even a mannequin there. It's just a hat and a coat sitting in the front seat.
Wow.
yeah, and that's
That one broke me. I was like,
that I'd never seen before.
there's a
I never- I
whole
didn't-
not character here.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's
Movie
also
magic.
like, what was the mindset going through? Like, put a mannequin or something. Just have somebody sit there with the clothes on.
it's deflated, a purely deflated person, no neck, a hat.
Maybe it's
and the
maybe
jacket.
it shares the same universe as Roger Rabbit, and it's Christopher Lloyd at the end of it.
Now the third one is a genuine like character
Yeah.
change development. So when you first meet Marion,
Right.
she's in the bar,
Yeah.
right? and you see that beautiful shot of the shadow of Indiana Jones walking through the doors, right? What is she doing at that moment? She's stressed.
Isn't she like polishing glasses behind the bar?
Yeah, she's picking up the glasses. Yeah.
Right. And then she does something like she puts them to her head.
She goes like this and then throws one.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And in like you said, she's polishing glasses. The question that came up on the internet was, what is she actually holding?
Right.
She's not holding shot glasses.
She's not?
She's not. And in the script, they pulled up the shooting script, and it's written out that what she's holding, and it's a scene that they never shot or they cut out, is that she went out and grabbed two snowballs and held the snowballs to her head.
Because she was...
for relief.
Like because she was drinking so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
Snowballs. And now you can't unsee that because in the stills, I went by frame, you can see clearly they are snowballs.
But when she throws them, it makes a sound of
Foley,
glass shattering.
the Foley is of shot glasses. And it's weird.
The shot glass throwing is... Marion.
I don't understand what you're accomplishing by holding snowballs to your head. Is that supposed to help with your hangover?
I guess so.
No, she's not even hungover. She's like superiorly drunk.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm gonna try that next time.
I guess it's like it's a little bit of that character development. It just fleshes out this is a ritual that she does.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, so you are Norm. There's no segue. I love non-segueing with Norm.
It drives him crazy.
It drives me crazy because I had one, and
did you?
Yeah.
So you're going to New York soon.
Yeah. Yeah. We've always talked. We've been in New York together a bunch of times for New York Comic Con, and we've gone to like New York Maker Faire, and we've gone typically in the fall. Your favorite time in New York?
April or October.
Absolutely, right. I'm going in the middle of June, so it's gonna be 91 degrees later this week when I'm there, and I have no idea what that means or how that's going to feel.
You just want to be indoors as much as possible.
Hey, you stay inside from about like noon to 6, and then luckily New York is a city that you can go out all hours of the night.
It lacks sleep. It doesn't sleep. There's some phrase. The thing that's great about hot summer New York is, as Kishore says, after the sun goes down, walking for hundreds of blocks while chatting and talking and grabbing pizza and coffee and drinks and whatever. Yeah. That's
perfect.
That is New York.
That's what I hope for.
You're like, we're on Delancey. Let's walk uptown.
I'll be there with a pregnant wife, so our mobility may be a little bit limited.
Maybe walk. Well, yes,
but the pizza. There will be pizza.
There will be pizza for sure.
I don't have one of the things I'm doing is soliciting suggestions for things to do because I've never had an opportunity for a trip where I've had both the day and the night free.
Have you ever gone to the Museum of Natural History?
Yes.
Okay,
I've done that.
The whale and you've gone to the squid and the whale and all that. Okay.
I'm going there again. Going to the MoMI again for sure. I got a recommendation for the Brooklyn Museum, which apparently is a
Brooklyn Museum is wonderful.
Gem.
I was there a couple times ago when I was in New York.
There's a V&A exhibit that's a traveling V&A exhibit that's there right now for
that's
Bowie. Actually.
Oh, right.
So I'll be very excited to see that. But
have you been to the World's Fairgrounds out in Queens with the model of New York
No,
City?
I have not been in the model because that's where Maker Faire New York is, out in Flushing. But I've never had a chance to see the Futurama. Right,
the model is shocking.
It's the one where at the World's Fair. It was called, I think it was called the Futurama. It's an animated miniature. And
it's effectively a scale miniature. I can't remember what scale,
but you rode over it. Well, was in the World's Fair. You were on. It was a ride,
right?
You got to see the future as imagined.
It's now in the round. I think you walk around it, but it's a scale model of all of New York with every single building in New York in the model.
Oh,
and it is a tradition, from what I remember, that when architects finish a new building in Manhattan, they have a scale model made, and they always send it to the model so it can be installed.
Do they actually put them in?
Yeah. So it should be updated.
Oh, that's great.
So like even the Freedom Tower, which is relatively new.
Yeah. And so there's also there's little wires for planes that take off at LaGuardia and land at Kennedy on little strings. it's gobsmacking to see. It's something like 150,000 buildings.
I've never seen this.
Oh yeah,
okay.
it's really incredible.
I gotta check that out.
That's worth seeing.
Random tangent. We got our recommendations because I talk about model trains and newfound love of miniature trains at Maker Faire this year. A bunch of people recommended, and I want to make it there eventually. In Germany, there was a giant miniature HO scale cityscape with airports, and everything is lit up, and it all moves. And these tiny organic cities are I want to see more of those. I got a recommendation for Cloister.
Yeah, the cloisters are really beautiful. Absolutely.
It's like a church grounds and museum, medieval museum.
At the north end of Manhattan. Absolutely beautiful. That famous unicorn tapestry that you, if you grew up in New York, the unicorn tapestry is like part of your youth because it was just everywhere. And it's up there at the cloisters. Are you going just over the weekend?
It'll be like 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things like the cloisters will be easier on a weekday than a weekend.
Got it.
I strongly recommend the Empire State Building if you've never been.
Empire State Building is wonderful.
It's
wonderful
incredible.
because it's like both from the architecture of it all, but just like standing in line and riding the elevator. There's something like that's just entirely a throwback about the entire experience.
When
wasn't
I
on my
lived in
list.
New York, I used to go to the Empire State Building once a year. That was the only local that ever did that of my friends. But it's truly wonderful, and it's an insane view.
Okay.
Oh,
All
that's one of my favorites.
I will look forward to that.
I can't remember. It might actually be a pass now, but Manhattan Henge is right around now, which is that moment where like the sun sets like in alignment with the streets.
Yes.
In alignment with the east-west streets, so that you can see. Yeah.
Oh, I will have to take photos of other people taking photos doing that. The behind the Instagram scenes.
Are you going to see any shows?
That's the thing. I think like the one time I went and saw like 3 shows in once, and we have only tickets for one show, and it's a show that I think both of you have seen, and it's in and of itself.
So good. So good.
I've only been told not to be told much about it.
There's nothing to be told about it.
I want to have expectations set in that it's not a traditional magic show.
It is almost an anti-magic show.
Yeah, I think calling it a magic show is sort of a weird disservice to what it actually is. You're going to a one-man show.
It's a one-man show, 70 minutes long, with 6 tricks in it, and every one of them. I mean, like Michael Weber, who directed Brain Candy and is a wonderful magic designer and magician in his own right, has this, conversational gambit. He'll be like, "There's only X number of tricks," and then he'll lay out for you the categorical top lines of these like 7 different kinds of tricks. And you realize, oh wow, he's really right. There's only these number of tricks. It still feels like all 6 tricks in and of itself are different than anything I have seen. And as much as I know about magic over the years, there's one trick in there. I still don't know how they do it. I've like literally no idea at all.
So you can go in with the mindset that Adam's talking about, like where you try to figure the show out. I would say if you have any control, don't do that.
Don't do that. No.
Just immerse
let
yourself.
The show happen.
And when I saw it, I got tickets sort of last minute, and I was sitting near the back, and Frank Oz was sitting next to me. Like, he was just sitting like 2 chairs down from me.
Frank Oz directed in and of itself.
He's just watching the show, and what I thought was so magical about it is after the show, there's things that happen in the show with people in the audience is people don't just leave. They hang out and they're talking about the show. Yeah. And there's some people that are trying to figure it out. But I managed to run into one of the people that was kind of in the show, and we talked, and we ended up talking for like an hour just about all these personal stories. So there was this weird way where it just like took strangers, put them in a cauldron, and out came out the other side. I felt like I knew these people afterwards, and that was the magic of
and
that
it wasn't
show.
It's not a big theater because I'm going to look for tickets.
No,
it's
150.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very small. It is. You're absolutely right. The show is a crucible, and it's an autobiographical crucible that Derek Delgadio walks through. It is also, it's still very private. He still keeps a lot to himself as much as he reveals, and he does not tell a lie for the entirety of the show. I believe that's the case. I've seen it 4 or 5 times now. I saw it at the Geffen when it first opened, and I think 2 other times in LA, and I've seen it twice in New York.
Yeah, it's closing in August, so
It is. It's such a singular, beautiful document as a performance. I mean, it's really. I can't gush enough about it.
Well,
and I'm given to hyperbole.
And without going, we're not going to go into the specifics. I'm going to see it in like 2 days. But
you
the
gotta
fact
text
that
me after.
I will absolutely. The fact that these type of shows are when magicians perform shows, they're written and performed by the magician, but they're also directed, right? So this one, Frank Oz directed. So I'm really interested what the collaboration is and what does a director bring to a show if the magician knows all the tricks and the magician is a performer. What can a director bring?
You'll see, because I think the core of the show is that it's not a magic show, and like that's the beauty of it. It is a stage show.
And the thing about Frank Oz is that Frank Oz has always performed. The first half of his career was formed in a space where the suspension of disbelief didn't matter. He created magical things where the suspension of belief did not matter. It was all about story and character, and this is no different.
And that's also an interesting thing, because unrelated to that show, last night I watched another magic show. This is
Excuse me.
sorry, no worries. It's a magic show that's on Netflix right now. A magician named Darren Brown.
Darren Brown,
He's
amazing British musician.
And
Mentalist,
yes, exactly. And he does a show called Miracle. I guess he did it in London 2015, 2016. That's now on Netflix. And watching it, I'm like, do I want to watch a magic show on the TV? Because
I know.
when you're in an audience, and he does it for an audience of 2,000 people, like you have a buy-in already. You have a suspicion that you are the energy of the room, the reality distortion field is there.
Yeah.
So can that transfer through the plane of the television, and is that as effective? And you saw the same show.
I was blown away by it, and it wasn't so much that I was blown away by the tricks. Again, it was reminiscent of what In and of Itself did, which was take these magic tricks and surround it by this sort of wrapper of a story that enveloped the crowd. And basically the conceit of the show, and this isn't spoiling anything, is he gets up there and says, I'm going to lie to you,
Right.
and you're going to believe me. And you're going to be totally bought in. And he doesn't reveal the tricks, but he tells people what they're getting into, and they still fall into that trap just because of who we are.
Well, I also think that's part of a longer tradition in modern magic of being really clear about about the deceit. And Darren Brown's particular brilliance, in my mind, is taking classic tricks and doing beautiful and amazing mods. I haven't seen the Netflix special, and now I didn't even know it was there. I can't wait to watch it. There's a classic old trick called Out of This World, in which you hand a deck of cards to someone and ask them to mentally sort the cards into red and blue, red and black, without looking at the cards. So you make 2 piles blind, and the magician then turns those piles over and shows that you have done it correctly. Right? This is a wonderful reveal. It's a great trick. Watching it in the hands of a good magician is just delightful, and the surprise is incredible. Darren Brown's version of Out of This World from years and years ago was he handed you a bunch of photographs, and you put them into piles of people you liked and people you didn't like. And when you were done, he turned them over, and you could see that all the people you didn't like were deceased, and all the ones you did were alive.
What?
Wow.
I know. That is the kind of narrative flourish he brings.
Hey everyone, before we move on with today's show, I want to thank the other sponsor of this week's episode, and that's Stitcher Premium. If you love music, you also might love comedy, and you may love Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al, was one of the first cassettes I ever bought, and he puts on an incredible show. He actually just wrapped up his ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, where for the first time he played his original songs, classics like Dare to Be Stupid, Buy Me a Condo, and more. There are 77 performances on this tour, and every show is unique with a different set list, professionally mixed and mastered, and includes Al's impromptu stage banter. And with Stitcher Premium, not only do you get Weird Al's ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised vanity tour, but you also get access to 21,000 hours of original content, exclusive bonus episodes of your favorite podcasts, and ad-free archives, hundreds of stand-up comedy albums, and more. For a free month of Stitcher Premium, go to stitcherpremium.com/weirdal and use the promo code Untitled. All right, back to the conversation.
So where were we? Darren Brown.
Yes, we were talking about Darren Brown, and Kishore and I were just talking about how I didn't like all the tricks he does in this special, and that's okay, because some of the tricks that he does were, to me, very clearly just versions of a trick I had seen before, and whether the execution was hit and miss, I just don't care for that type of trick.
Right.
But you said, Kishore, you really enjoyed what he did because the people, he does, it's not a spoiler, so he tries to show his version of faith healing.
Okay.
He says that, people do faith healing around the world, and he's a complete skeptic, and he knows it's not true, but he tells the audience, I'm going to do these examples that you would have seen by faith healers and tell you up front, and then he does it anyway, and they totally, without being plants, they fall into what he does.
Right.
That's powerful.
Which I think is totally powerful. I think the one, and this is going to be a mild spoiler for those who haven't seen it, is he does this bit with a woman where he smashes a light bulb and then eats it.
Right.
And then convinces a woman across the table from him, who's from the audience, to eat it as well. And she is full, palpably of fear, as you would be if you're trying to eat a glass bulb, and walks her through it so carefully and sweetly. But really what he's doing is having her believe that she can do this thing while establishing some safety around her. And I think that's what was magical. It wasn't the trick itself. I've seen that trick before, but it was the story around it, which was, you can do amazing things if you believe, but the people that peddle that to you as a story are oftentimes not in it for your best interest.
That is totally true, and I really appreciate Darren Brown being part of a long legacy from James Randi and Penn and Teller and a lot of other amazing magicians who are clear that these are tricks. But there's a thing about what you're describing that is something I realized about magicians that is also became clear to me why I would never be a good magician. And it is that a magician doing a trick well involves taking an audience member, whether it's a close-up magic or a full audience, and holding them in a slightly uncomfortable place because something unexplainable is going to happen. And that is inherently a slightly dangerous place. I always think of it like the bodyguard holding Michael Douglas out over the driving range shelf in the movie Black Rain. It's like the magician's holding you in this slightly unsafe space, but they're holding onto you really tight. And they're managing your attention and the narrative that you are receiving and remembering in order to give you this experience that they would love. They would love to be fooled. As Julius Sweeney says, magic is all atheists have left in the world. And I, as the type of pleaser and cooperator that I am, I don't feel comfortable holding people in that space. I don't feel comfortable lying to them in order to create this experience.
I would just imagine you just the whole time going through the thing, having a big grin on your face.
Oh my God.
You're going to experience something amazing.
If I do a trick, I am nothing but just a litany of tells. I blink before I do the move. I do all sorts of crap. I'm terrible. But it is exactly that thing of holding someone really tightly and giving them something really remarkable.
I think the other thing is he was doing that show in front of 2,000 people, and there was nothing more intimate than watching that moment one-on-one with one person on stage. And that level of intimacy in an age where everything feels like the opposite of intimacy these days felt really special and kind.
Well, that's what I was watching it for. Like, you watch his version of the trick in his storytelling, but it's how does he capture 2,000 people, and what is the performance? What is that 70 minutes? He has 70 minutes to tell his X number of stories and tricks. How does that unfold, and what does it build up to, and is there a culmination? And for this one, there was. Yeah, so I'd recommend that. So I'm that's a long way of saying I'm very looking forward to.
I can't wait to see it.
In of itself, also.
Yeah. Don't let us build it up too much for you. My one piece of advice for you for that show is take it seriously before you show it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And text us afterwards.
Please text us.
I texted Adam right after I got after.
I was like, dude. I am still. My wife and I are still burning our way through Mad Men, which remains so shockingly great. Just incredible.
And you go on a trip very soon. We talked about it last week. You are working on the Maltese Falcon.
I am. It's right over there. I'm going to work on it today a little bit.
Since we saw
I got a
it
lot
last
of
week.
stuff to do today. I got to finish the Comic-Con costume for San Diego today, basically today.
Oh yeah, essentially.
Because I'm out of time.
I know you're well ahead of your normal schedule, but I get how you're out of time. Does it feel any better to be potentially done with your Comic-Con costume 3 weeks before Comic-Con?
This has happened before. The Alien spacesuit, when I made that, I was finished effectively a month before Comic-Con, and it sat in the shop, and I was in full production at that point, so I came by the shop every morning at like 7 in the morning with a cup of coffee and sort of tossed a little on it just to dirty it up and kind of weather it in.
And the excitement of unveiling it doesn't wane in the fact that you have this period?
Not at all. In fact, I'm already thinking about how to display this year's San Diego costume here in my shop so that I can like imbibe it and imbue it. There is some aspects of a cooling system which I'll probably add when I get back. But yes, this weekend I'm heading up to Anderson Ranch to finally foundry the Maltese Falcon, and I just showed you the old one next to the new one.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's pretty different.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so there's this thing that's happening, which is fascinating, right? I'm going through, I have all of these images of the Falcon. I've printed them all up full size, and I'm using calipers to measure distances and make sure that all of my topography is correct. And yet, I can't quite get all the way there. That's just the way that is. This is an imperfect art, what I am doing. As tight as I can get, if you could grid the real one onto what I'm making, they won't match because they will never match because this is an imperfect art. And so there's this point at which I stop worrying. There's a point of detail at which I stop worrying about the detail being perfect and I start worrying about it being right. And I am almost at the point with this Falcon. I've got all the topographical details in, every D10, every feather line, but now it's time to tie it together so it feels like a cohesive whole. And that involves going sort of away from the perfection of getting every little detail right and making sure that the sculpture itself feels exactly like it should feel.
I think you just described like the struggle with any maker, like finishing a project. Like, what does it feel like when it's right?
Well, specifically a replica, when you're talking about detail by detail, is literally grid by grid line, start this mark and this mark and this mark, but the step back.
Well, there's a difference between me and a certain level of prop replicator. There's on the RPF now, the replication of Han Solo's DL-44, his sidearm in Star Wars, is at such a high level that you can buy a stencil that replicates all the chipped aluminum perfectly to screen matched perfection.
Right.
And I so appreciate that someone did that, and it doesn't interest me as a replicator to nail that, because if I was hired to make a new DL-44 for the movie, I wouldn't be doing that. I would be making it work for itself. That's just my personal thing. That I really appreciate someone who wants one that is in every way screen accurate to the mote of dust and speck of...
That's what right means to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't the original just go sell at auction?
That's a Jedi one.
Oh, the Jedi one.
Yeah, and we're not sure.
We're not sure.
Which
it wasn't
one.
bought by a friend of ours.
Really?
Do we know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, all right.
I don't know. It went for a lot of
Low
money.
low price of $885,000.
So the first film that got Steven, I'm going to tell a story that ties back into this. The first movie that Steven Soderbergh got famous for was Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which is a masterpiece and is still a wonderful and weird and intense movie. And it stars Peter Gallagher, Andy McDowell, Laura San Giacomo, and come on, the guy James Spader. Excuse me. And Spader,
Ultron.
Yes, Spader is great. Spader's terrific in this movie, but Soderbergh wrote a book about the making of the movie, and he talked about the rehearsal process with Spader. And one of the things Spader, the actor, told Soderbergh was in the rehearsal process, listen, there's going to be a point in this process when the character becomes mine and not yours. And that's the point at which I'm going to be layering in the stuff that becomes mine as an artist to weave into what you've built. And I really loved the consciousness that he had about that. And it is exactly the same place I am at with the Falcon. There's a point at which this is not a prop replica as much as it is my sculpture about the prop replica. And I know that is a super fine distinction. Adam Rogers from Wired and I were talking about it the other night because it's one of our favorite subjects to sit around and talk about.
Does your language change then too? Do you say this is my Falcon as opposed to the Falcon?
Actually, yes. And that's informed by... I made a joke a couple of weeks ago during the building Ken Goldberg's Goldberg
Dave
Arms.
Goldberg, yeah.
Sorry, Dave Goldberg.
Yep.
And I accidentally called him Ken Goldberg, who's a friend of mine that runs part of the robotics department at Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Ken through my friend Michael Joaquin Gray, who's the creator of Zoob, a toy company that I was director of R&D of in the 90s. And Michael, in the late 80s, made a perfect replica of Sputnik. And this was before the wall came down. He found engineers from Russia to help him replicate the radio. And Sputnik was a pressurized canister. And he literally, every nut and bolt he replicated and displayed it with its long antenna in a gallery on a long strip of, I think, black velvet. And the sculpture's title was My Sputnik. And the moment I saw that, I was like, I know. I get it. I got it. And so when I was first working on the Maltese Falcon talk, which was the first big talk that went up on the TED site that got me attention, my guiding principle in that was my Maltese Falcon. And that was part of a rhetorical flourish that I ended up removing from that talk because it was unnecessary. But yeah, it is exactly that. It's my Maltese Falcon, not the Maltese Falcon. All this seems, I'm sure to some folks, this is a level of specificity that is completely unnecessary and ridiculous. And I totally agree with that.
But that's why they come to this podcast.
I think that's why they come to the podcast.
Come for the freaks, stay for the specificity.
And I can't wait till you come back from your trip and see the finished cast one.
Well, so I've built this box, which I am transporting my Wax Master to Colorado in. I have ordered on eBay a case in which to transport back what will be a 35-plus pound bronze master.
Wow.
Please tell me it's like a James Bond villain aluminum case.
It's totally a pressurized military case with multiple butterfly closures in it. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
I'm carrying that on. I am not checking that piece of luggage. It's not leaving.
Well,
my
then
side.
you have to handcuff yourself to it.
Right, exactly.
35 pounds. Wow. That's gonna be the weight limit. The whole thing
for a carry-on.
For your carry-on.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to go. Look, the last time I transported a prop replica that was surpassingly important to me by plane, they lost it for 4 days.
Yeah, I remember.
They don't like suitcases that are small. This was the problem. I had it in a briefcase that was small, and thus when they emptied out the plane of the luggage, they missed it, and it went on to Chicago and came back again.
Thankfully, 35 pounds, a little more difficult.
It's
still worth
to lose.
putting a GPS tracker on that, maybe.
Well, I have been known to do that in the past. Anything else to
I think
talk
that's
about
it.
on the site this week?
One thing we're announcing is that at San Diego Comic-Con, we're looking for Totoros. If we'll be
Not like
bringing-
in the park. You're requesting people.
Yes.
to-
Well,
It's
you know,
it's our
wherever we can
LARPing
find them.
version of Pokemon Go,
Yes.
except with Totoro.
we want the Totoro meet cutes. Yep. If you're going to San Diego Comic-Con and you built a Totoro, maybe it was inspired by the build that you did, Adam, or maybe you just built a Totoro, we would love to meet up and put a comment on the website, not YouTube, on the website, and we'll reach out, or tweet at us, and we'll reach out and coordinate something.
Yeah, it's going to be Studio Ghibli Love Fest.
Oh, that is going to be the single most happy moment of the con is see a march of Totoros.
Dude, what is the collective noun for Totoros? I want to say a love of Totoros. A hug, an embrace of Totoros. There you go.
A snuggle of Totoro.
Weirdly, I want Morgan Freeman to narrate this march. Is that weird?
Yeah. I can't do a Morgan Freeman. John Doe has the upper hand.
And I think that's a perfect place to end. Thank you all there for listening. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. Hey, do like I do every year on the 4th of July. I read the Constitution. It is a fantastic practice. It's a very readable document. And given all of the crap that is spewed about what the Constitution is and what it means, it is a good practice as a citizen to read it yourself.
No spoilers, though.
No spoilers.
I want to see how that thing turns out.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Kishore, for joining us this week. And people can find you online at Science Quiche.
They can find me places.
Yeah, you also do Inquiring Minds, a regular podcast, as well as our other podcast, Is Only a Test. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks again for listening. And once again, this episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Udemy, the largest marketplace for online learning. Want to expand your potential? With over 65,000 courses starting at just $11.99, Udemy can help you develop your skills and discover new passions. Students around the world have used Udemy to get ahead and even switch careers. Visit ude.my/untitled or download the Udemy app to learn anytime, anywhere. We'll see you next time.